Hey guys, welcome back to the Halo Forge Epidemic. My name is Pa1nts, and today I'm bringing you guys the big announcement video for my Flood game type, which I did co-create with S1erra420. So I'm gonna get him to say a few things later on in the video. But getting back to the game type, it is of course called Last Stand. Now basically, Last Stand is a holdout infection game type that began about 8 months ago, and ever since then it's developed quite a bit. The settings are at a point where I think they're pretty much finalized. I'm happy with them. I've worked with the community on fixing some issues that they had with it in its beginning stages, and some of the Flood forgers out there are really starting to embrace it and forge some great maps for it. So I'm going to be getting into the maps a little later on in the video. There's 7 maps that I've chosen to show off with the release of the game type, but of course there's going to be a actual master list that will be in the description, which will include a lot more Last Stand maps. But what you're looking at now is actually the first Last Stand map ever created, and it's interesting because it's on Longbow. So I didn't originally intend on making these maps on Forge canvases, but I started out with Longbow and Exile, which you will also get to see later on in the video. So I tried to fine-tune the settings to what people can expect in a pretty standard Flood game type. Nothing too crazy, at least when you spawn in. The humans will spawn in with assault rifles, and from there they are able to pick up weapons, abilities, and grenades to use against the Flood. I also really wanted to bring back the Magnum and make it a useful weapon, so precision weapons like the Magnum can be very useful since it is a one-shot headshot. So you'll want to be on the lookout for that. You won't find many DMR or BRs or anything like that. They're probably just too overpowered. If you do, it'll probably be like once in a blue moon, you know. It really all depends on what you want in your map, though. If you think you can balance the DMR, then go ahead. And as for the damage settings, it takes 2 hits to kill a human to make up for that long Flood lunge. Especially in these smaller maps, humans have fairly average damage settings, with the last man standing seeing a slight boost in damage, shields, and mobility. So one thing you're going to notice is that Flood have the ability to jump, but for humans, jumping is actually disabled. I guess this is a good opportunity to show you guys a quote of what Mr. Psychoduck had to say about the game type. So he says, "People think that just because game options are fairly straightforward, that it didn't take anything to make the game mode. But what they don't realize is that the options weren't decided on arbitrarily, but were actually decided by testing, and more importantly, people don't realize that it's how the game mode works with the maps that makes it special." So you guys are going to have to trust me when I say I have a whole bunch of reasons why no jump settings work for the game type. And it's not like I just said, oh hey, I'm going to take away the jump for no reason at all. That's not really at all how it happened. Basically, we started to realize the benefits of no jumping. For one thing, it's a zombie apocalypse. In a realistic situation, you wouldn't be jumping up and down while you're scoped in on a zombie or anything crazy like that. And once you play it for a few games, I think you'll probably forget you could even jump before. And it's nice because instead of constantly switching your right thumb from the jump button to the thumbstick, you can focus more on your accuracy. So it's really more of a simple style of gameplay in that sense. More of just a point and shoot kind of game type, but it's the coordinating, I guess, with other survivors and using the weapons and holdouts to your advantage provides a better experience. Now, something else that's cool about Last Stand, and this should appeal to forgers, if you want to make your own Last Stand maps, not only do you have more budget for the humans holdouts, and by that I don't literally mean more budget, I mean since the maps are on a smaller scale, you're not really wasting pieces trying to make this massive map, and you're now able to add an interesting dynamic to the way the Flood spawning. For example, a hidden drop that Flood can use can be really terrifying and unexpected for the humans, because they're unable to see it from their point of view. And you could also have things like man cannons that shoot the Flood into the map. Just things that free roam maps don't have. There's a lot of spawn killing opportunities on free roam maps, and I find that oftentimes in free roam game types, players generally end up wandering off by themselves, hiding, you know, trying to get to the broken spots. I know there's a lot of that goes on in matchmaking, and it's just really counterproductive when you have maps that are so big, there's so many nooks and crannies on the map that players end up getting lost by themselves. So with Last Stand and having no jumping, you're giving the humans more opportunities to use teamwork and set up in the holdouts. And you can actually see this same concept in other games that have holdout style game types in them. And usually there's barriers, things like that the map designer has used to his advantage to allow a certain flow to the map. And this is probably a good opportunity to hand it over to S1erra420, who will talk a little bit about a game that influenced Last Stand and some other things he had to say about the development of Last Stand settings.
Hello everyone, I'm S1erra420, the 420 Spartan. I am a co-creator of Last Stand. My role in development was balancing gameplay through testing and the research and development of core concepts within the game type. So Pa1nts and I started development of our own personal game type, working together shortly after launch because we felt there was lots of issues with default Flood. Didn't have that classic infection feel from like Halo 3 and Halo Reach. We didn't like the Flood having armor abilities or one-hit talons because the lunge is just absolutely ridiculous. These changes alone weren't enough to make a classic game type, so we looked to Halo Reach's infection for a model, and we added weapon drops on the maps, and we brought back one-shot Magnum like Pa1nts talked about, but we still weren't satisfied with the results. Hivemind was being developed at the time, and it already had taken the spot as the standard free roam infection game type. It was decided that our game type should be designed for holdout then specifically. When we made that decision, then I started researching older games for like inspiration for maps and just concepts of like why do these games function properly with a smaller, cramped kind of environment. So I started playing old Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 2 in specific, to try to find what would work with this. Resident Evil had that game feel that Last Stand needed to really make it shine. I really liked survival horror. Like, one of the aspects about Resident Evil that made it creepy and challenging was the limited controls. You had to walk around objects rather than like jumping over them, and you could only ascend when the game was designed around it, using things like ladders, stairs, lifts. Humans not being able to jump in the game type really makes Last Stand feel unique and different from most game types, and it truly makes it a holdout game type. There's two different play styles with it and kind of keeps it fresh. As a human, you have to work together, like preventing the Flood from overrunning your squad, blocking different entrances and such. But when you're playing as the Flood, you have to rely on like ambushing the humans using these setups and like tricking the humans using drops and man cannons and such. Put simply, Last Stand's the amalgamation of Pa1nts' ideals for a balanced and classic holdout infection game type, with my vision of creating the survival horror experience within one of my favorite first-person shooter games.
Yeah, so basically you are going to be able to create a more interesting and detailed theme to these maps, and incorporate a different experience for attackers and defenders each round, somewhat like One Flag does for competitive modes in a sense, because you're designing the maps based on one team having this very linear approach, while at the same time giving the Flood the proper amount of cover. And they try to invade the defenders who have their base, and they bunker down, and you know, it's the defender's job to strategize on how they're going to handle those approaches. So whether it be communicating on where the flood are, watching the entrances, sharing weapons, because everybody, you know, loves sharing weapons. But if you're actually playing smart, you will make sure that the weapons don't all get picked up by the same person. So if you like holdout game types, Last Stand gives you a pretty epic experience for the most part. And we were basically just tired of stalemates happening in free roam game types, and I wanted to improve the flood experience in Halo 4 and give it a standard holdout game type. So that does pretty much cover the game type section of the video. Moving forward onto the maps, there's actually 7 maps total that I'm including in this launch video. So this is where I'm going to show you guys a very brief overview of each map, and then you guys can download them and check them out for yourselves. Don't be surprised if you've already seen or even played some of these maps before. They obviously had to go through a lot of testing and all that stuff. So now onto the maps. The first map is called Tunnel Rats, and it was forged by Robius 5991 and the Omicron. It is basically a military themed map set in the trenches of Vietnam, so you'll get a lot of interesting gameplay in these tunnels and cave systems around the map. Now humans will spawn in this large trench on the exterior, and from there you can hold out in this large inner cave, the turret pillbox, and another bunker off to the side. You do have action inside and out, which is good because it doesn't feel as claustrophobic. Now the next map is called Mayday. It was forged by Tendes. It is a massive ship that is half sunken in, broke open, and yes, you can get inside of the ship. Now there's various holdouts throughout the boat, but as a human you spawn in the portion of the ship that's waterlogged, which is one of the main ways a zombie can get at you. So it is smart to find a spot where you're inside the ship, bunkered down, or even in the captain's viewing tower there. So that's a pretty solid map. I think it pulls off a theme, pretty unique theme to the Last Stand game type. The next map is called Bay of Pigs. It was forged by Oxyclutch, and it is a kind of bunker themed map. It has a very interesting layout because there's a lot of opportunities to fire at the zombies through holes in the wall. Essentially the map is one large holdout chained together, and then there's a couple of docks outside where you can find the regen field off the start and some assault rifle ammo. The next map is City Heights by Shadow Cryptic. It is a multi-level building. Now the great thing about this map is that it's fun for both sides. The zombies get some interesting spawns, and it's also very fun to be a human. So this map has been tested a lot, so I know it's been through a lot of changes, and the current version is very balanced. Now the next map is called Substance, and it was built by myself. SNERra420 did help me make the chemical truck that you can find outside. It's only really viewable as a flood. There's a spawn right above the truck. Substance is a chemical processing plant, which is actually a pretty large map for Last Stand. I did want to make it big enough so that there's constantly zombies pouring in. So the next map is Longbow. It's the episode 1 of actually a 3-part series of holdout maps on Longbow. You can find the rest of the maps in the master list. Again, this was the very first map, as you saw in the gameplay earlier, so it really forces humans to group together. And finally, the Exile Map, which is going to be the last we show off in this video, basically utilizes the middle of Exile, and the zombies will spawn from all around. There's various holdouts inside the middle of the mountain there. But actually, if you want even more Last Stand maps, because if 7 wasn't enough somehow, there will be that link in the description to the master list of Last Stand maps, which is basically going to be all the Last Stand maps that I have discovered, and I will be adding new ones as they are discovered. But that is it for today. Let us know what you think of the game type. Go play it, try forging it, and enjoy. I have been Canadian Psycho Duck, aka Pa1nts, with the Halo Forge Epidemic,
And I've been Sierra420, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy playing Last Stand as much as Pa1nts and I enjoyed making it.
Yeah, thanks so much guys, I'll see you later.